listening to the Dreaming of Freedom podcast on the 2 Cents FC network.
All right, welcome back to the Dreaming of Freedom podcast, where we talk about all things black soccer in MLS. I'm Jermaine.
I'm Callie.
They call me AD.
And we are members of Black Herons United, an independent black supporters group for Inter Miami and all things black soccer in South Florida.
For episode 16, we'll be covering match day 18, giving you our dream team selection, the nightmares, and of course, our footnotes. So stay tuned to catch it all.
All right, how y'all doing? Hell of a match day, hell of a weekend. The messy news has kind of settled a little bit, so now we can kind of get back to all things non-messy in MLS. How y'all feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. Excited to get into it this week. Just want to give a quick shout out to another Black Heron United member. Fun fact: Oliver York. I won't give out government names out here, but he makes some of the best gear, some of the best gear out there. You just gotta check him out. So I just wanted to show him a little love today. Also, dope. Miami born and bred. Let's do it.
Let's go. Yeah, they do a lot of good work. Not only with the designs, but with like social justice issues, right?
Yeah.
Different societal things going on.
My shirt, if you're watching on video, reproductive rights are human rights. I think they did this. It started off with Wisconsin, and I think he ended up doing one for all 50 states. So
nice.
I think this was the first one, so I copped it.
Bet. All right, AD, I like that jersey you got on.
Appreciate it.
I know you like my jersey, but we'll talk about that another time.
When Callie's not on.
Please.
When Callie is not on.
I've gone through enough.
Yeah, all right, bro. Yeah, bro. You know what, bro? Just don't say anything about the greatest team, bro. Don't say anything, bro.
Come on, City.
Is this Dreaming of Freedom or is this Shades of Blue? What's going on here, man? Like,
shout out to Shades of Blue. Shout out to them boys. All right, cool. All right, yeah. So you're right, Callie. This is Dreaming of Freedom. So let's get into the weekly roundup. We have a team of the week from the East and a team of the week from the West. In the Eastern Conference, we definitely wanted to give a big shout out to CF Montreal. They put the smackdown on Minnesota United 4-0. Did any of y'all catch that game? Catch some of the highlights?
More so the highlights. Actually, did watch a little bit. Obviously, every team playing at the same time, it's tough. But I was flipping around when Inter Miami was upsetting me too much. Mason Toye and Brock Gillard absolutely popping off. Huge day for them. And our boys Duke and Lassiter got into the game. They both got subbed after the half. So
Duke is so he's such a joy to watch on the pitch.
Yes, man.
When he's playing in that true number 10 position,
it's nice to see a team that utilizes him properly.
Exactly.
Yeah. It seems like all the teams that our former Inter Miami players got sent to are being utilized correctly with those teams.
It's a weird coincidence, man.
It's a weird coincidence.
Makes you wonder what we've been doing this whole time.
Are we in a problem?
I mean, hopefully the problem has been shipped out. I actually think he just went to Canada, right? I'm not sure if that was the final news on Phil Neville. But whatever, good riddance. Montreal is absolutely killing it right now. So that game, as Callie said, they had 2 black goal scorers. Mason Toye had a brace. We'll definitely talk about him in the Dream Team segment. But there was an absolute banger by Zachary Gillard. I don't know if y'all catch that goal. Did y'all see that?
Yeah, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
That boy almost took the roof off of the net.
Absolute laser.
Yeah, just top in. Just it was a great cross, right? It was like a switch of the field. He does a incredible control with his knee, and just dribbles a couple times, just blasted into the top of the net. So that was a beautiful goal. Shout out to ZBG.
Shout out to his celly.
Say that again.
Shout out to his celebration.
Oh, yeah,
he
yeah,
went and
yeah.
grabbed the ball, put it under his shirt.
Yeah, and speaking of celebrations, Mason Toye has a dope celebration, which we'll talk about in the Dream Team segment. But for this game, he did not celebrate because he was playing against his former team in Minnesota. So, top class from Mason. But he does have a pretty dope celebration, which is pretty fun to watch. So we'll talk about that more in the Dream Team segment. What else in that game? ZBG. Shout out to the Selly, young Canadian brother, 24 years old, born in Haiti actually. Spent some time in France, came through the Lyon Academy, came back to Montreal in 2019. Had a couple of call-ups for the Canadian men's national team. And he recently signed a contract extension with Montreal. So definitely shout out to ZBG. And I think he has made the preliminary roster for Canada for the Gold Cup. Right. So we'll see. For this year's Gold Cup. So we'll see if he can get the final call up on the final roster. That third goal. I don't know if y'all remember that third goal, but speaking of Duke, right? Duke just pulling the strings, right? He sends a nice pass to Sanusi Ibrahim, who we talked about last episode. Sanusi does a laser cross to our boy, best gritty in the league, Ari Lassiter, who takes a shot, misses a shot, unfortunately, but who's
seen
there
that
to?
One before, unfortunately.
Yo, bro, I had traumatic flashbacks watching that goal. I'm like, yo. That is the Ari we know, unfortunately.
But the thing is, that's kind of his game where like he sets up the pickup, the volley at the end.
Yeah. He is. He happens to be there.
Ari's more of a he's a great facilitator, less so a finisher.
But what's weird is that he looks like when he takes the shot, it looks like a good shot.
It looks great, so it leaves his foot. And then it's like, dog, how do you find the corner post on that, bro?
How did that happen? But anyway, so he took the shot. He's involved in the play. He's in the right place at the right time. Being active. Coming off the bench in the second half. And Mason Toye is there to clean it up for his second goal of the night. Yeah. So that was definitely a fun goal to watch. Just again, shout out to Duke, shout out to Lassiter, but also shout out to Sanusi Ibrahim, right? So hopefully he can kind of keep his nice little goal contribution going throughout the season.
Yep.
So a couple notable mentions in the East. Columbus had a great game against Chicago.
We have to talk about.
Go ahead, Callie.
Bro. Game's winding down. What was it? The 34th or the 94th minute or something? 90 plus 6. 96th minute. Oh, 95th minute. Sorry. A little ahead of myself.
Yeah.
But
calm down, bro.
But still 95th minute. Game's winding down. Chicago, who's been struggling, looks like they're gonna get a draw from a good Columbus team, and then lo and behold, Zilarian from the half line just chips it right over the keeper into the net. Just absolutely world class. Just I mean, if you follow soccer to any extent, you saw it on Twitter or on Instagram or something because it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where you just kind of put your hands on top of your head and just like for both teams, right? Like for Columbus and Chicago, just like, well, what are you gonna do? Like that's just. Yeah, it's just beautiful. And it's a good look for MLS, right? I mean, with the whole Messi news, it's a nice little cherry on top. Just a little, just giving more spotlight, right, to the league itself, right? So shout out to Zalarayan doing his thing, and Wilfred Nancy, right, coach of the Columbus Crew. Again, one of two black coaches, so it was good to see him.
And one of the best in the league, should we say?
One of the best in the league, bro. Coming from Montreal, right? We just talked about Montreal. Coming from Montreal, he did wonders with Montreal, and he seems to be, keeping that same quality with Columbus, right? So definitely shout out to Columbus. It's exciting to again watch some of these storied MLS clubs kind of continue their good form. And the other notable mention for the East is Charlotte. Charlotte had a really good game against Seattle. The game itself was a banger of a game, 3-3. Charlotte had two black goal scorers, who we'll talk about in the Dream Team. Also, shout out to Kerwin Vargas, who played for Charlotte, Afro-Colombian, 21 years old. He had a huge impact throughout the game, and specifically in the first half. It's just fun to see him kind of hug the touchline, hug that sideline. And Charlotte was just feeding him. They were just feeding him, and he was just taking the players, taking defenders on one-on-one, providing good crosses. So Kerwin Vargas is definitely someone to keep an eye on in the East and with Charlotte. Okay. So just to be clear, those two black goal scorers out of Charlotte were Jalen Lindsey and Patrick Agyemang. Okay. And so we'll talk more about them when we get to the Dream Team segment. Okay. And in the West, Callie, who do we have? What team do we have in the West?
We had Houston. Houston Dynamo lay the absolute smackdown on LAFC. And Houston, a team that a lot of people had kind of towards the bottom of the table, were playing really well, and they 4-0 to LAFC. That's hard for anybody to do, and Houston definitely answered the call there.
Yeah, Houston is looking good. They have a young brother on their team, Nelson Quinones, who seems to be really finding some good form the last two games specifically. He kind of tore it up against Chicago, and then in this past game against LAFC, he ended up with a goal. He created a penalty for the second goal. So shout out to Nelson Quinones. He occupies one of the international spots, one of the U22 young players on Houston, and for matchday 18 he was he made one of the young players of matchday 18. So he's definitely someone to keep an eye on, young Nelson. And we also had Carrasquilla with a beautiful assist. Actually, he gave the assist to Nelson outside of the boot. Right foot across the field, just finds Nelson, and Nelson does the rest. One player to watch at Houston is this new brother. Actually, he just signed with Houston back in April. I believe it was April of this year. Ibrahim Aliyu, a Nigerian youth international. Again, just joined Houston from Lokomotiva Zagreb out in Croatia, where he spent the last 3 seasons. And during his time with Lokomotiva, he picked up 17 goals and 7 assists in 84 appearances. So Houston seems to be on the rise. Again, if you haven't already, please check out their club profile on MLS Season Pass. And let's keep an eye on these players, because they're definitely a club that seems to be trending in the right direction.
And something important to note about Ibrahim Aliyu, I mean, he got his career started really young. Again, like you mentioned, he played at Zagreb for 3 years. He's only 21, so he, young Nigerian boy going to go play in Russia like that is a hard thing to do. Mm-hmm. And he dominated there, and now he's getting his chance stateside. So I think that's someone we all need to be watching very closely.
Yeah, and shout out to the Nigerians, right? I mean, last week we talked about Sanusi Ibrahim. This week we're talking about Ibrahim Aliyu. So shout out to the MLS for kind of spreading out their wings in terms of recruitment and bringing in some more international players, more diasporic players. All right, so let's get into the chunk of the episode where we talk about our dream team. So we're gonna switch it up a little bit differently going forward, just for the sake of coherency and time. So we'll give you all of the goal scorers, all of the black goal scorers from matchday 18, but we want to focus on 3 of them specifically. Okay, so let's just go through the list. The first one we already talked about, ZBG, Zachary Broguillard out of Montreal, right winger, just an absolute banger, top bins in the 13th minute. His first goal on the season. So shout out to ZBG, and let's keep an eye on that Gold Cup roster. Hopefully he can get one of those final spots. So for Charlotte, we talked about Jalen Lindsey. Shout out to Jalen Lindsey. He's a homegrown player out of Charlotte. and it's his first goal of the season as a defender. So he is definitely someone to keep an eye on. We always want to give a shout out to our homegrown players, especially our black homegrown players, because it's just an example of the ways in which African Americans are really, engaged in the sport. It's just also a good example for other African Americans, right? That they can see themselves in these teams, particularly these local teams. Now, on the other side of that, it's up to the local teams to make their way into these African American communities, right? Which is a whole other conversation. But yeah, definitely shout out to Jalen Lindsey. He seems to be doing good things, and it's just good to see homegrown players get a goal in front of the home crowd as well. Next, we have, of course, Nelson Quinones, who we talked about with Houston. We have Bobby is Blackwood. Bobby is backwood. Again, unfortunately, it was against Inter Miami, but it is fun to watch Bobby Wood this season, right? 6 goals on the season. It's just nice to see him kind of find his form again, right? So, I was talking to my brother the other day. I'm like, bro, did you know Bobby Wood is black? And he just looked at me. He was like, mouth fell to the floor, like, damn, what? Yeah. So,
the flying Hawaiian, baby.
The flying Hawaiian. I love that. Yeah,
if you look at it, he's actually had a really impressive career, man. He played at Munich, not Bayern, 1860 Munich in Germany. Union Berlin, Hamburg, Hanover. Dude's balled out in Germany before coming back to the States, I should say.
Shout out to Bobby Wood. He may come up. He may or may not come back up in our footnote segment. We'll see. But yeah, again, unfortunately, it was against Inter Miami, but Inter Miami is so trash right now that it's very hard to root for them right now until you know who comes. Anyways, so as we go forward, we have Jeremy Ebobisse.
We stand. As for me and my house, we stand Jeremy Ebobisse. This guy's electric.
He really is. He really is, right? So this podcast is definitely standing behind your boy Jeremy Ebobisse. So we'll definitely talk more about him. We're actually going to focus on Jeremy Ebobisse in our Footnotes segment, right? So stay tuned for that. Jeremy Ebobisse scored the goal for San Jose, match day 18, another banger, and it's his 7th of the season, right? So he had 17 last season. So let's see if he can get close to that, or maybe even exceed it for 2023. Next, we have Damian Lowe. Shout out to the General. Another one of Inter Miami's players that got shipped off, unfortunately. Yeah, he's he's performing well. He performed well with Inter Miami, but he's also performing well with Philly. And he got the goal. It was off a set piece, corner kick, nice header, strong header into the back of the net. So shout out to Damian Lowe. And finally, we talked about him maybe two episodes ago, Frank Boley, out of Portland, from the Ivory Coast. And the goal was just kind of a diaspora affair. So in Portland, you had the captain, Chada.
Chada,
yeah. It's Diego, right? I think it's Diego, not the brother. Diego Chada, who's the captain of the team, controlling the midfield, sends it to Evander Ferreira. And Evander just floats a nice cross into the box to Frank Boley. Boley finds it right in front of the goal and just heads it into the back of the net, right? So he gets his 4th of the season. Again, from the Ivory Coast. Always want to shout out the diaspora. So that's the majority of our dream team, and we're gonna get into our last 3 members of the dream team. Mason Toye, who we talked a little bit about. We'll go into a little bit more detail about Mason. Niko Gioacchini, and Patrick the Crown Prince Agyemang, playing for Charlotte, right? So let's start with Mason Toye. Anyone wanna take a little stab at Mason's career so far?
Yeah. So he's a New Jersey native, South Orange. If you know where that is, that's right outside. That's right outside the city. So definitely a local product in terms of, born and bred there, went to high school there, all that fun stuff. Then for college, he went to Indiana. So if you're a Hoosier, be very excited, because he scored 10 goals in 25 games, like an absolute baller.
Yeah.
Went on to play in the Red Bull Academy before signing his first big league contract with I almost said University of Minnesota United.
Right,
where he was there for 3 seasons. He was loaned to a couple of USL clubs, Colorado Springs and Fort Madison, before he found a home in Montreal, where he's been an absolute baller.
Yeah, for real. So picking back off of what Callie just said, he was the 7th overall pick in that 2018 Super Draft, and he had a pretty good career with Minnesota. Right? There was a game he had with Minnesota where it was actually another brace. It was against LAFC in 2019, and in that season, Minnesota United was the only team to beat LAFC at their stadium, right? And so that was because of the performance from Mason Toye, where he had 2 absolute golazos, just bangers of a goal. So Mason Toye is he's also suffered a number of different injuries, which of course is gonna hurt any player's confidence. But this was his first start back from having surgery on his left meniscus. His first start back, and he gets a brace, so that's definitely gonna help. It's definitely gonna help the confidence. If it took a knock because of the injury, that brace is definitely gonna elevate him to new heights. So, in that game, it was Toye and Sanusi up top, right, forming that partnership up top. So hopefully that's something that we can look forward to throughout the rest of the season if Toye kind of maintains his health. And he's also a really smooth player, right? His style, he always looks like he's under control with the ball. He looks like he knows exactly what he's about to do. Every touch of the ball, he knows exactly. He looks like he knows what he wants to do, and he usually executes it, right? So his technique is also very, very sweet, very just a kind of a joy to watch the way he plays the game. He can kind of open up those hips, right? So that brace that he scored against LAFC back in 2019, when you watch him, he just opens up those hips and just finds the back of the net, like long distance shots, both on the right foot and the left foot. Doesn't matter. This guy is special. So also shout out to Forward Madison, shout out to Featherstone Flamingos, the black supporter group out there for Forward Madison, and shout out to the Henny Derby, which is taking place this weekend, I believe. With if you don't know, the Henny Derby was created by supporters of Forward Madison and Richmond Kickers, specifically Kyle Carr and Yogi Elliott with Richmond Kickers. So that seemed like a really dope experience. If you haven't been, definitely recommend you to go. I have to get out there myself and just experience that, because it seems like
2 Cents gang headed out there this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that seems like an absolute vibe. Also, the name is just incredible.
It's perfect.
The Henny Derby, come on, man.
Especially knowing the people going, this is perfect.
It's perfect. So shout out to Mason Toye, kind of doing this thing with Montreal. And just shout out to Montreal. They seem like a very black team. One of these episodes, we're going to talk about the blackest team in MLS, and Montreal and Portland. They're definitely up there. And Toronto's up there too. So shout out to Canada and the diaspora doing their thing.
A little bit of Vancouver.
Right? Last episode we talked about who's that? Pedro Vite, right? So Canada's doing some things diasporically with the game. So it's always fun to watch in MLS. All right, so moving on from Mason Toye, next we have Niko Gioacchini. I don't know if y'all seen Niko's goal for the St. Louis game. Did y'all catch that?
Yeah.
bruh, that thing was like the improvisation on that goal was just like it came off a bounce.
Yeah.
Then the finish, bro. Like it came off the bounce. His back is to goal, and he just flicks it over his shoulder behind the keeper. And it was like quick. It was real quick, right? Like he had like no time to think about it. Like he had a defender on his back. So Niko Gioacchini is definitely a little baller, right? Kind of like a low-key, sneaky baller. He's had a few caps with the U.S. men's national team, but he seems to be really finding his form with St. Louis, who selected him in this past expansion draft. So he's definitely someone to watch. He also has a very interesting upbringing, right?
Very.
So he was, So he was born in Kansas City, to an Italian father and a Jamaican mother.
Yep.
Callie, what else? What else about
so
Niko?
he was born in Kansas City, moved to Italy at 8, then moved back to the United States at age 12 to Maryland, and then at age 15 the family moved to France, and there he signed with Paris FC, which they're a League 2 club. He played with their B club, and then he signed a 2-year contract with Cayenne, which are also a League 2 club. He made his debut against Paris FC, which was his former club. And then after that, he went on loan to Montpellier, and then he signed to Orlando City, where, we won't hold that against him. He had a couple, he only played in about 6 or 7 games for them. And then, St. Louis picked him up in the expansion draft. And fun fact, he was eligible to play for also Italy and Jamaica.
Word.
That's
a wild dual nationality.
Yeah.
Yes,
and now
it
it's
is.
funny that he's in St. Louis. He's in St. Louis, but he was born in Kansas City, and that's a huge rivalry in terms of, American sports. Kansas City and St. Louis, just as cities, it's a huge rivalry. So that's really cool how that worked out.
I'm about to call this man the most interesting man in MLS.
He's up there, man. And
he's
young.
definitely up
He's
there.
young too. He's only like 20 years old.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
22.
very young.
But
Yeah. I mean, very young, but very experienced, right? He's and just like I watched his interview with Flyer Over Footy, which is another MLS podcast. I think that focuses on St. Louis, but he talks about wanting to rely on that European experience, right? Bringing it over to MLS, bringing it over to St. Louis, and he kind of talked about himself as a mentor, right, for these younger players, right? Even though he's only 22 himself. But he seems very mature, right, in kind of how he understands his game, but also how he understands his place within the team and his journey as a footballer. So Niko is definitely having a great season. I believe he has 5 or 6 goals. I believe he has 5 or 6 goals.
Yeah.
6 goals.
6 goals in 16 games, which is solid.
Yeah, for sure. And so he brings a lot of energy. He says in that interview, he likes the flair, right? But he understands that it has its moments. And you can kind of see that. You can kind of see that in this last game, right? Because that goal was, definitely a lot of flair on that goal. And the celebration was a lot of energy. Like, bro, I was a little nervous for Mans because the way he was beating his chest, I'm like, bro, please do not hurt yourself, dude. Like, do not hurt yourself. But Niko Gioacchini is definitely an exciting young player to watch, and hopefully he can get some more call-ups into the U.S. men's national team. So we'll see. Hopefully, if he continues with his good form this season, we can start to see more of him in the national team. And we'll talk a little bit more about the national team later on, and kind of some of our thoughts about that. All right, so who do we have in the last player for the dream team? We have Patrick, the Crown Prince, Agyemang, out of Charlotte. Shout out to Patrick. This guy had a hell of a 48 hours. So he scores for Charlotte. This tying goal, 89th minute, ties it up 3-3. It's his first goal in MLS, right? He's the 12th pick in the 2023 draft. So it's his first goal in MLS. The next day, on Sunday, he scores for Crown Legacy FC, which is Charlotte FC's MLS Next Pro affiliate. And doing so, he became the first player in MLS history to score a goal in MLS and MLS Next Pro in the same weekend. Okay, so, legend, bro. Already a rookie legend. So shout out to Patrick, man. Born in Connecticut to Ghanaian parents. Again, he seemed like a very, very humble guy. Like when you watch interviews with him, he talks about how his parents, worked multiple jobs, right? And that they're his heroes, right? And he's very, grateful for their, sacrifices and dedication that they had towards his career. So he just seemed like a really nice, genuine guy. But also a very versatile forward, right? A very versatile striker. Not only, of course, I mean, he's like 6'4", 6'5", so he definitely serves. Yeah. So he definitely serves well as kind of like your target number 9. But he can also drop deep, right? When you watch some of his videos from Rhode Island, where he went to college, he's not afraid to drop deep, right? To pick up that ball in the midfield. And as such, when he picked up that ball in the midfield, he also shows off his dribbling ability, right? He's not afraid to dribble as a striker, as a number 9, both in open space, but also in a crowd, right? In a very congested box. And then on top of that, at the end of the dribble, he'll most likely, more often than not, finish that with a goal. Right? So, dude is nice. I think for his college career, I think he had 19 goals and 12 assists in 37 appearances, right? 19 goals and 37 appearances. So that's nice. So shout out to Charlotte for picking him up in the super draft, and hopefully he can continue this form.
Yeah. It's a straight baller. You nailed it.
Yeah. So the Crown Prince, and shout out to him. He's also showed us a little bit of love on Twitter recently. So.
Hey, even better, baby.
Yeah.
Shout out to my man.
all day. All right, so that rounds out our dream team for match day 18. And let's keep it going. It's after each week, it's just like we have more players to keep an eye on, right? More players to watch to see if they're going to continue to score. But we're also being introduced to players that are scoring for their first time, right? So, let's definitely continue to watch these games, and hopefully the dream team members continue. The dream team list continues to expand. So, unfortunately, of course, we have to. Not only focus on the dream team, but we have to focus on the nightmares. Okay, so we'll make this one real quick. Inter Miami versus New England, of course, as I mentioned last week, of course, Inter Miami lost.
We always find out 2 weeks in a row we've been doing this. 2 weeks we have a fucking Inter Miami player on it. God damn, bro.
It's definitely not a good look. Definitely not a good look.
Seems very fitting because they're haunting my nightmares right now.
So that's why they're haunting your nightmare. Okay, got it. Yeah, man. It's the team is rough to watch, man. The team is rough to watch for like bottom of the table. And it's just ironic that this is the team that Messi is coming to. It's just so many emotions, But yeah, so DeAndre Yedlin gives up the penalty. Actually, yeah, so 2 black players gave up penalties in this game. DeAndre Yedlin and Andrew Farrell, or Farrell. I like Farrell better, but I think it is Farrell. But again, we don't want to use this segment to kind of beat up on them, but show them love and support and care. It's never fun for a player to experience those moments. But also shout out to Yedlin. Yep. He got the call up, right, for
Yep.
For the
him
Gold
and our
Cup?
boy Big Draco.
Right? Big Draco. So Draco got the call up for the Nations League, right? I don't think he got a call up for the Gold Cup.
Right.
But did Yedlin get the call up for both?
Yeah, he did.
For both?
I believe he did, yeah.
He did? Okay. Yeah. So, shout out to,
I mean, doing something right.
he must be doing something right. I mean, mean, dude, like, he's not having the best club season, but somehow he's making the final roster for the national team. So, shout out to Yeti. Hopefully he can find some better form with Inter Miami. But so hopefully he has a good Nations League and a good Gold Cup. All right, so finally, let's wrap up this episode with our Footnotes segment. This should be pretty fun because I know we all have a lot to say about our boy Jeremy Ebobisse. So shout out to Jeremy Ebobisse. Just a few quick numbers to kind of give y'all your last season with San Jose. So he's coming from Portland, but last season in San Jose he had 17 goals on the season. This year he already has 7 goals, so hopefully he can definitely match that going forward. But one thing we've noticed is that he scores a lot of goals. He's eligible to play for the U.S. team, but he's only had one national team call up, right? So we were wondering what's going on with that. Y'all have any thoughts about that?
Thoughts about that. I mean, he's getting hot at the right time, right? He's one of the best scorers in the league, electric player. The U.S. national team is a team that's very deficient at forward position. So it's weird that he's only gotten 1 cap with them. Now, he also has nationality with Cameroon, and he is still eligible to make that switch since he's a dual national. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward. But man, if you haven't watched San Jose, I know it's tough to watch those West Coast games and stuff like that. That team is fun to watch, but that dude specifically is absolutely electric. Doesn't put a foot down wrong. Very intelligent, fluid player. He has a rocket for a foot, man. Like you gotta watch that guy play soccer, man. You gotta watch that.
Really
guy
does.
Yo, so Jeremy Ebobisse's legal middle name is Bangers Only. Okay, so when you watch this dude play, you'll understand why he was gifted this middle name. But so Jeremy Ebobisse, again, very confusing. So I think his first call up was in 2019. He had a few call-ups for the youth national team, for the youth U.S. national team, but only 1 senior call-up in 2019. And he's talked about this actually, right? He had an interview with MLS, I believe it was last year or in 2021, where he talks about, listen, maybe he's not that interested, or he's not concerned, right, with not making the team, right? He's focused on his club career right now. He can't control what's out of his control. But it just never seemed like Berhalter really gave him, the opportunity after 2019. And for me, one thing I'm also interested in as it relates to Ebobisse, and I'm not making the claim that they are related, but it is interesting, right? That Ebobisse is arguably the most outspoken MLS player on race relations, right? And so, he was definitely a co-founder of Black Players for Change in 2020. He's an executive board member. He talked about participating in the different protests and rallies in 2020 while he was with Portland. But he's also talked about his frustration with the kind of performative nature, right, of how people responded to George Floyd and that whole 2020 moment. And so in 2020, he wrote a Medium article where he described his hope that, the wave of these protests were sincere, right? He was hopeful in that. But he also talked about how he was very cynical, right? And I'll just read a brief clip of this article where he says, but there exists a cynic in me, a cynic that protects me from getting my hopes up, a cynic that reminds me that this will blow over in most minds, and we will still be isolated in our fight for human and civil rights. I see your posts and they are heartfelt. I could feel that. But I also remembered some of your posts after Trayvon Martin, after Eric Garner, after Laquan McDonald, after Freddie Gray, And heartfelt as those were, we were abandoned as if the statute of limitations on pursuing racial justice and accountability had expired. There was a minor blip as the verdicts were read, but you had said your piece, so it was time to move on and accept society for what it was, a place where blackness was deemed a threat that could cost us our lives. And so I hate the cynic, but the cynic has always been right, and the cynic has always protected me. He goes on to say that, quote, James Baldwin reminds us that to be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time. And yet through all this rage, I hope that one day people will understand that making a change isn't about using black bodies to feel a part of a social media movement after seeing an emotionally scarring video, but rather a constant journey of decolonizing your minds, listening to black voices, finding organizations to support, and putting anti-racists in power. Okay, this is an MLS player, y'all. Okay, Jeremy Ebobisse speaking mad truths, right? Speaking mad truths. So I'm not suggesting there's a correlation here, but could it be possible that the U.S. men's national team just doesn't want to associate with that type of politics, right? Is that a possibility? I don't know. I'm just trying to throw that out there.
I'm going to say when the face of U.S. men's national team has a history of supporting right-wing propaganda, and considering that face had a very good relationship with Greg Berhalter, and in a recent interview has said that they hope that they hire him and keep him as a coach for the U.S. men's national team, I think
Bars
may have something to do with why a guy like Ebobisse is not given opportunities. That's just my guess, my thoughts, but who am I?
Yeah, Callie, you just made some connections. There's a pretty compelling argument there. Yeah, it's just curious. It's just curious. Again, we're not saying that that's what's happening, but when you listen to the good sisters at Shea Butter FC, they talk about this all the time, right? With the U.S. Women's National Team, U.S. Soccer Federation in general, right? And the way in which they retaliate against the women, right, who speak out. Kristen Press, right, like, and others, right, have been retaliated against. So again, I'm not necessarily saying we have evidence of that, but sometimes the evidence isn't necessary. So Jeremy Ebobisse, we definitely want to give him a big shout out. As Callie mentioned, he may be on his way to representing the Cameroonian national team. He's already had one call up for a preliminary roster back in 2021 for the AFCON. So he may just be like, you know what, F y'all, I'm done with y'all, right? I'm gonna go where I'm wanted, where I'm needed. And where I don't know. I think it's a reflection of his politics, maybe or maybe not, right? It'll be interesting to kind of talk to him and figure out some of those decisions. But Jeremy Ebobisse is definitely someone that we're gonna support going forward as a podcast. He's still relatively young. He still has an opportunity, if they wanted to call him up for for 2026, right? He still has that quality and that youth in him. So. We'll see how he does for the rest of the season. Obviously, he was not called up for this last international window for the Nations League and Gold Cup, so it is what it is. But he's having a hell of a season, and hopefully he can continue that good form.
Absolutely.
So, Callie, AD, y'all want to add anything else before we hop off?
Man, support these guys, man. It's if there's one correlation that I've seen with everyone we've mentioned the last 2 weeks is that they're all young. All right, these aren't 28, 30, 32-year-olds. These are all 20, 21, 22-year-olds that are out here dominating the game right now. All right, so I think it's important that we watch them, we support them, especially with the U.S. Soccer Federation that just wants to cater to wealthy white suburban neighborhoods. It's important that we point out that most elite athletes in this league are, in the diaspora, are black, a lot of homegrown guys too, putting it on for their cities. So that's how I'd like to end it.
Well said.
I'm gonna just piggyback off of that. Give these guys their shine and their flowers early now. That way they can become stars later on in the league. Maybe they're not as big as some of the stars right now, but give them their shine now.
Absolutely. And hopefully with with Messi coming, a lot more spotlight obviously is going to be on the league, right? And a lot more spotlight is going to be on these players. So they'll definitely get their shine, but as AD said, we got to give them their flowers, and not give them the opposite of flowers.
That's right.
that shit on the doorstep. Right, AD?
Yes.
Oh man! All right, cool. So let's end it there. Let's give these boys their flowers. So thank y'all for joining us. If y'all have anything to add, please drop it in the comments. We are live on YouTube now, so definitely continue to check us out on all the socials, including YouTube. So with that, we are out. Peace.
Later.
Peace.